I'm Bruce Harders, and this is Voices in the Village. Today we have CeCe Sloan, a resident of about 20 years in the village, and she's involved in an awful lot of activities. CeCe, thanks for coming by and welcome to Voices in the Village.
My pleasure.
So CeCe, I understand that basically it all started back in Brooklyn, New York. Is that right?
That is true. Yay, Brooklyn.
So what were you doing back there?
Oh, well, I was being a street person, In Brooklyn, we learned from the street. You went to school, you hung around the street, you always felt safe. You went to the movies, 10 cents, for an afternoon matinee, two shows. And that's, where I sort of formed who I am.
Did you ever see Burn 'em Up Barns in any of those matinees?
Probably.
Yeah, they were really great. So, and then you got sophisticated and got involved in the arts, I understand.
Yes, throughout my college years, I was taking courses in visual arts mostly. I love going to museums. Mm-hmm. And from that, you learn a lot about history and how, how a painter documented what he knew. And you learn from that about costumes and colors, and it all spoke to me. That's
the main thing, isn't it? It has to really speak to you.
It spoke to me, and I knew this is what I had to pursue in my life.
And there were a lot of people out there just like you, too.
Indeed, there are. The museums are full now.
Fantastic. So basically, you're involved right now in two main events, I would say. One is the Shakespearean Club.
That's true.
And by the way, how's Shakespeare been doing these days?
Oh my God, Shakespeare is hot, let me tell you. In the last 4 years, I would say there have been thousands of productions in theaters, many, many films by some great Hollywood actors. There have been TV things on public TV. There's been a lot of searching for Shakespeare, where he lived, what Stratford was like. And it's brought more information to our young high school students and even younger. There's a great teacher, Mr. Hobart, up in Koreatown in LA, who took his 7-year-old kids, first year that they're speaking English in the family, how to do Hamlet and how to read Hamlet.
Wow.
And what it means to hold a mirror up to yourself and look and see who you are. Prisons are doing Shakespeare with prisoners. This has become very, very important.
Why do you suppose that's happening?
Well, again, it's finding that inner part of you, but not through your own script, but using Shakespeare's words. It's easier to use his words and to try to think about, Shakespeare's all about comedy and all about tragedy. This is what it is.
Right.
And the power of some of Shakespeare's subjects are what leads them to tragedy. Mm-hmm. Pursuing power, those figures, Julius Caesar, all those, end up in tragedy.
Right.
The comedies are romps. They're fun, and there are some good women's parts too, so women like Shakespeare, because some of Shakespeare's women are quite strong.
Right.
And didn't allow themselves to be put down, in a sense, when they act out these plays.
Women's rights, so to speak.
Yes, sir, yeah, of course. So I think that his popularity, will it wane now? I don't know. Right in our own Orange County, we're getting a Shakespeare Center.
A center?
A whole center, yes. Not just for putting on plays, but for scholars, for research. This is going to be at UCI, and they're starting it now. I've made a donation on behalf of my Shakespeare Club to see that happen, so that college students can have a Shakespeare Center right on their doorstep.
It's interesting because it's certainly, it's beyond words what people think of Shakespeare, the greatness of it all. But then suddenly, out of nowhere, you get 4 or 5 years where things start exploding. And I would think this is going to go on. This is not something that's going to fizzle out. Shakespeare's not a guy that's going to fizzle.
It's true. And you know why? Because I think they know how to teach Shakespeare. Many people who I've asked to join my club in the last 10 years say, I hate Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I said, you know why, though, if you haven't studied him? That's because my teacher didn't teach it right, you know. She bored us, or she didn't teach it right. And I think that's where it's got changing that.
You need somebody who loves Shakespeare to teach it, I suppose.
Yes, yeah. They have to shine the light on
Right,
Shakespeare and
right.
see you, get you to see that light.
Right.
Yeah.
You were mentioning that there was not long ago, the high schools in the state got involved in Shakespeare.
Yeah, I showed a documentary to my club, and David Deering, one of our friends here, old pros, came and talked about it. It was called Shakespeare High. So you would think maybe it was at high.
Right,
Well,
right.
yeah, they were high on Shakespeare.
Yeah.
These were high school kids throughout the state of California taking 5-6 months to prepare a play and put it in a festival with other high schools. And so you see the dynamics of the kids, you know, all working on it. Are we getting this right? You know, a little competitive, but that's all right.
Yeah. And your other activity is the one right now that is taking a lot of your interest and time, I guess.
Oh yes, that's my favorite, because Shakespeare I didn't know. I like him, but I didn't know him.
Right.
But a lot of the documentary films that I show are people that have contributed to things in my lifetime right now. Dance, architecture, design, music. I've showed films made by great documentarians about many great genius figures. And I also feel that what I'm doing is sort of reclaiming these people. Just before, I think everybody's forgetting who designed the Disney Center. It was Frank Gehry, you know. Show that film where he's interviewed and taken around by Sidney Pollack, the great Hollywood director,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Dancers, you know, dancers that right now are a little old and wouldn't get on a dance floor anymore. But we have them on screen,
Right.
and we have them interviewed. So we not only have the spoken word from them about what compelled them to paint or to dance or design or whatever, but we also see their work again. And as I said, a good documentarian brings out the best. And you know it's honest, because that camera is right on those
Can't
people,
fool the camera,
and
yeah.
you can't fool that.
Right.
So
So
I like
the-
that a lot.
The name of the club then is,
Discovering documentary films.
and what is there about documentaries that's so interesting? I mean, first of all, how many folks do you have in the club?
182.
And how many people will watch a film every time you have a meeting?
At least, Monday night we filled practically every chair that was out. 165 chairs were put out, and we filled every one. And that was Mozart. We did Mozart. Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of interest.
Yeah.
That's a lot of interest
Yeah.
for sure.
They're very accessible to what I choose. I choose them myself. I spend a lot of time researching the film, and then think of my audience and think, yeah, this is going to work.
Right.
This is going to work with them. And it usually does.
So you're going to be out for a couple of months and then back and picking up the pieces again for
Oh, yes.
the club.
Oh, yes.
And you're expecting, I'm sure, it to continue to grow, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had hopes. that theaters locally, when they get a documentary
Right,
of the sort
right.
I'm looking for,
Right.
would call me and say, bring your group over to the theater.
Sure.
But it's tough, and you're working with these
Right.
corporations is very
Yeah.
tough. You can't just do that. That was my dream, but
Right. Well,
field trips.
Well, CeCe, I certainly have enjoyed talking to you about both Shakespeare and your club, and there's so much there, we'll have to have you back again sometime. Thanks a lot for coming, and for all of you out there from Voices in the Village, this is Bruce Harder saying, come back again. Bye now.